Hello guys, my name is Lars Stender. I'm a writer from Denmark who specializes in science fiction and fantasy stories. I'm here today to read from my fantasy novel Madigo and the Hounds, and this is going to be chapter 40. If you want to know more about my writings and my books, just look for me at Facebook, Lars A.R. Stender. Madigo and the Hounds, chapter 40. The next morning, Madigo was sought out by the household steward, Parso, who asked him to go up to Sasira. The beautiful witch had her chambers at the very top of Bloodstone's West Tower, which is also known as the Women's Tower. Madigo felt slightly nervous upon knocking on Sasira's door. The two doorknobs that looked like eyes in a stiff oval oak door followed his movements. "Welcome, Madigo," a deep voice growled from the door which opened itself. Madigo stared. He had never seen anything like it before. The chamber was so luxuriously decorated and furnished that he could barely believe his own eyes. The walls were covered with big tapestries of brocade and silk, and there were curtains made of rich velvet hanging before the windows. There were handmade carpets on the floor, and upholstered furniture and cushions. The table and chairs were carved out of rosewood, walnut, oak, and cedar, and there was a huge four-poster bed of ebony. The ceiling was a dome of transparent crystal, held in place by golden ribs. A chandelier was suspended from the dome's ribs. It was made of silver, and with lights of magically shining rose-colored crystals. Golden oil lamps hang from the walls. In addition to that, 4 man-sized cresses of gold were standing about the room. The chandelier and the wall lamps were connected with one another by chains of pearls and semi-precious stones. A huge mirror with a golden frame stood at a corner of the room, reflecting all the luxuriousness of the place. A censer standing in the middle of the room spread deliciously scented fragrances. On a small table next to where Madigo was standing, there was a crystal ball and a stack of cards with strange designs. A shelf on one wall was filled with scrolls and books. At the top of the shelf there were dried herbs, stuffed bats, crows, a falcon, and what looked like a mummified monkey. Sasira reclined in a kind of sofa between the two windows facing east. "Hello, Madigo," she said, greeting in a friendly manner as he pointed towards a chair upholstered in red silk across from her, in which he could sit. Madigo went carefully over to her and sat down. There was a small tea table between them, and Sasira bent down, smiling, as she poured them 2 cups of tea from a silver teapot. The tea glasses were made of crystal and placed in holders made of gold filigree. Madigo gaped at luxurious wealth he saw all around him. Sasira herself was wearing a simple dark blue dress with long white sleeves and jeweled belt about her waist. A golden tiara held her long dark hair away from her face, and her large golden earrings gleamed in competition with the valuable rings on her fingers and bracelets about her wrists. A big pearl necklace hung from her elegant neck and rested between her breasts. Madigo felt wretched and ordinary in his coarse frock and started sweating from nervousness. "I never did get a chance to thank you properly for saving my daughter that night from the Utuko," Sasira began after taking a few sips of tea. "She means everything to me, as I'm sure you understand." Madigo didn't really know what to say, so he merely nodded. He was still so overwhelmed and surprised by this meeting that he still wasn't quite himself. But at the same time he remembered how Sasira had stopped him from getting close to Sharimet during the party the night before, and the fact that she seemed to be in collusion with Montero made her even less trustworthy in his eyes. On the other hand, she had generally been friendly to him until now, and she had interceded on his behalf when Montero had wished to punish him for his disobedience and break-in to the crypt. But now he couldn't make out, and that made him nervous. "I understand that you and Sharimet have recently begun to become friends." Madigo nodded again. "I suppose we are," he answered carefully. "But you are only friends, right?" Madigo knotted his brows. His heart began to pound. His ears had registered a small, sharp tone in Cecila's question, and when he happened to catch her eyes, he noticed they were hard as stone. He started to sweat even more, and he became angry. His lips became a tight line across his face. The worst thing was that he didn't know exactly how Sherimet felt about him. He loved her, but he felt betrayed by Cecilia and also Sherimet. During the party, it had been as though none of them wanted to have anything to do with him. In the end, he just shrugged his shoulders in response to Cecilia's question. A small smile formed on Cecilia's full lips, and she seemed to relax a bit. She drank some more tea. You see, as soon as Sherimet has become an initiate, she and I will be returning to Suara, where there's a great future awaiting her. I probably shouldn't be telling you this already, but I think it would be best for all parties if you knew. Almut comes from a very distinguished and wealthy family in Suara. His parents and I are old friends, and we've decided that Almut and Sherimet would make a wonderful match. They also seem to like each other, so as soon as they are both of age, they plan to marry and start a school for magic and wizardry in his parents' hometown. In that way, they will be best able to restore the world of magic and civilization to the world. So you must understand, Madigo, that you and Sherimet can only remain friends. Cecilia looked at Madigo, whose mouth had turned dry. Yes, he understood very well. Suddenly, the incense in the room began to make him queasy. May I go now? He asked hoarsely as he clenched his fist in the sleeves of his frock. Yes, of course, Cecilia replied. Madigo got up awkwardly from the soft chair and edged his way past the delicate little tea table. With sweat trickling down his neck, he walked over to the door. The room started to spin. The door opened automatically once again. Just before he stepped out, he cast a glance at the big mirror in the corner. He saw his reflection and almost got a shock when he saw the strange, scarred creature staring back at him. The scars in his face seemed to have spread, so that particularly the left side of his face looked dark and demonic. In his right eye had begun to glow with what looked like a non-human gleam. He felt a pressure and a stinging sensation behind his eye, and wished the mirror would vanish. Immediately, the mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. End of chapter.
So, here we go again.
Here we go again.
I don't think there's too many questions here. It seems like straight out.
Yeah. He's pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what can he do about it?
Exactly.
That is probably the problem here.
Yeah. So he vents his anger at the mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also shows that he has more strength in his magic.
There are some powers that are starting to manifest themselves, yes.
Yeah. I don't think there's much to say.